Okay, well, I started trying to make hour-long videos that I was going to cut into pieces and upload to YouTube or whatever. And I kind of decided maybe it would be better because of distractions and stuff if I would just record in 15-minute segments. So that's what I am attempting to do right now. I'm not going to. I'm going to kind of restart, but not really. In other words, I'm not going to throw anything out that I did before. In fact, I have 2 hours that I'm going to edit. I'm going to cut into 15-minute segments. In fact, in an effort to keep everything in Blender, I'm going to learn how to cut those pieces out in Blender's video editor. Uh, Even though you could easily do it with some other, I can find there's several other pieces of software that will, for free, that will do this a lot easier and a lot quicker. But in an effort to learn Blender and do everything pretty much in Blender with the exception of Armory, I have decided I would do that. And also, uh, I uh, actually am going to show it to you. I'm not going to. I'm thinking that I'm not going to actually go through all the tutorials like I was going to originally to show you how how I go from nothing to something. What I'm going to do is uh, in between times, in between the videos, I'm going to go through some general purpose tutorials and things, and then I'll tell you a little bit what I learned, and then I'll try to apply it to something in my game. For those of you that don't actually know the game, it's going to be a 2D point and click adventure game, but it's going to be made in Blender and Armory 3D. Through the use of billboards, so I can have 3D spatial positioning, and the backgrounds I can actually map onto geometry to whatever 2.5D. Although people say 2.5D is different. Some say it's the full 3D stuff, but where the camera is locked off and you're like side scrolling, like Trine or Trine or whatever it's called. Others say it's just a three-quarter view, which is a lot of platform games from on the Nintendo, back in Nintendo days, back in the 80s. A lot of them, like Mega Man, had this sort of three-quarter view of their platforms instead of just a straight-up side view. But uh, I always thought it was cool when I heard the movie Hook first used projection mapping on Neverland, the Neverland reveal part, where you first see Neverland. It's actually a matte painting that they painted, and then they mapped that painting onto geometry so they could move the camera, and it kind of moves in perspective a little bit. And so I thought that would be kind of a cool thing to do in my game. So I'll be learning how to model a little bit so I can build out geometry, so when I paint my background, it has a 3D aspect to it, so I can kind of move the camera a little bit and stuff like that. It's still going to be, everything's still going to be pretty much 2D, of course, 2D sprites and all that. So it's not like it's going to be a full 3D deal, but instead of panning over a static background image, it will be panning over it'll be moving the camera over, showing the background in perspective a little bit. And I have to come up with everything. As far as I know, Armory 3D doesn't have game specific stuff like adventure game stuff, right? And I have to build the interface, which I'm going to build my own interface, that an idea that I had earlier. So I'm gonna have to do like everything from the ground up, and so I'm gonna start by setting up Blender and Armory. Now, you might see this blinking here. That's just hex chat. IRC client that somebody's tagged me with, by typing my name. So I'm just going to go to that for a second. I'm looking, if I'm looking to, it's not in the camera, that ways. If I'm looking that ways, which on the screen is to the left, it's actually to my right. That's where I have my second monitor, and I have IRC and Discord running. So I'm just going to check that out real quick. Somebody said hi. Typing back. Recording my next 15-minute segment. By the way, RC and I now have Discord is on my second monitor, so the viewers of the video can only see me looking to the side and typing. Okay, so let's go back to the first thing that I am going to do. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is, I had all this stuff. In fact, you should see it in the other videos, presuming that I end up editing those down and uploading those, which I'm going, that's my intent anyways. And then this is the story, Enchanted Lands, Real Magic Kingdom. Either been closed off. So basically, Enchanted Lands is a Real Magic Kingdom that operates as a tourist resort, and they've fallen in hard times because all the schools and all the things to do have been pretty much closed up. There's only one restaurant franchise running, and there's like only 1 or 2 hotels open, and nobody can go into the schools or leave. And so I called my wizard Harold, halfway Harold, because the idea was half of his magic was gone, and he could only produce like half of, whenever there was something with 2 or something that could be split, it ends up being split when he does his spells, which were if, for instance, you wanted two eggs, right? Two cooked eggs, and let's say he casts a spell on it, you'd only get 1 cooked egg, or 1 cooked egg and 1 raw egg, or whatever. It was just going to be that sort of thing where it's literally halfway. It's literally the results of his spells end up being only half there, like physically, literally half there. But anyways, because of Harry Potter, who is also a quote-unquote wizard, I decided that I was going to name him something else. I named him Bob in here, but I decided, at least for the time being, he's going to be called Henry instead of Harold, just so I can do the alliteration, and I'll call him halfway Henry. And we don't know his last name. He's just Henry, the wizard. But so now I did this, and I realized that that I needed to start this from. I needed to have like my overarching plot or my story, the whole story. In fact, I'm probably going to make this in pieces, kind of like a book, like in chapters or whatever. They're not going to be individual games. They'll be the one game, but they'll be in segments, just so I can finish off one and then, you know, so I can release stuff, and so you don't have to wait like, you know, ages for the whole thing, even though it's still going to take a long time. So I can't say much about that. But so I said really I should start with like a log line, right? So something like let's see, Enchanted Lands is about a real magic kingdom turned tourist resort that has fallen on hard times. Because of the state of the realm. See, that's fallen on hard times. That's not a log line when I put two of them. You know, that's a, I don't know what you call that, but that's a few line dealy. It's like the synopsis I just wrote that's actually on the screen here. But okay, so Enchanted Lands is about a real magic kingdom turned tourist resort that has fallen on hard times. Whose head wizard, halfway Henry, ends up traveling to our world in order to find someone to help him restore the kingdom, to help him put the kingdom back in the red. Obviously meaning profit, right? Actually, not back in the red, it'd be back in the black, wouldn't it? In the red means you're in debt. Back in the black. Okay. So, let's see how that reads. Enchanted Lands is about a real magic kingdom turned tourist resort that has fallen on hard times, whose head wizard, Halfway Henry, ends up traveling to our world in order to find someone to help him put the kingdom back in the black. Okay, now, I suppose not everybody around the world would be, here, I'm going to turn this down a little bit because it looks like it's going into the red, and I don't really want that. Now, obviously, around the world, you know, being in the red or in the black is a, first is a, is an accounting term or thing, meaning, a long time ago they used to write their deficit or their debt in red, and then when you're financially solvent, you write your assets in black ink. I would assume that most people know what that means, but it's kind of an offhand way, so I'm not sure that this this little log line kind of holds up. I'll have to maybe look at some like screenwriting or novel writing stuff. Maybe they can help with a better log line. But for right now, this is where we're keeping it. And so ends update number 1. And actually, those other videos that I'm going to make, I will probably not make them as video 1 or whatever. update 1 or whatever, I'll probably, I don't know, maybe I'll make them like negative, negative update, negative something, or maybe I'll do it like 0 point whatever. In any case, the first actual official update, little 15-minute video here, a little bit over 15 minutes, it's okay, doesn't matter. And I'll just stop it, and then I'll come back in a little bit, and maybe we'll set up Armory3D, the newest version, with Blender 2.8, and we'll get started playing around with that.